Morning, everyone. Today, I want to talk to you about being careful if you become a guarantor. So, this is a Thursday morning. It's a very wet Thursday morning, but it's another episode of my mistake series, and this one is be careful when becoming a guarantor. So, there's a couple of occasions where this has caught me out in the past, and to be honest with you, it's a bit naivety on my behalf. I mean, this is going back quite a while ago, but the point is people quite often become guarantors for other people without fully thinking it through, just thinking that, we need to do this to get this over the line, or whatever. And, there's a lesson to be learned straight away, because I'm still dealing with some guarantor issues from several years ago. So, naive mistakes can still linger around and cause you disruption further in the future. So, I go back to, this is farcical really when you think about it, but I've always been someone who's been very, very protective of my credit. It's so important in property. If you are a landlord or you're owning properties in your personal name, even in company names, your personal credit as a director or a personal landlord, private landlord, is so important for getting the best rates on mortgages, refinances, all this sort of things. You need to be in a position to get the best leverage on the finance market, and that only happens if you've got a credit-worthy file, which allows you to take advantage of that. Now, as I've been very careful with this, what you'll come across as you come across business partners, team members, people you work with, others aren't so careful, and as a result, they don't have the same access to credit that you have. And you can often find when you're working with people or team members that you occasionally have to put your credit worthiness on the line as a guarantor, because the lender will lend to this individual or provide credit on the basis that they have the security of somebody else being a guarantor, i.e., in this case, myself. And you got to understand that basically what you're signing when you sign a guarantor is you are guaranteeing the creditor that if that person does not pay or falls into arrears, they can come after you as the guarantor. You're guaranteeing that debt will be settled. So it's quite a significant amount of exposure. Depending on the size of the debt, it can be extremely significant. And but you instantly get into the sometimes you get caught into the moment as an entrepreneur where you're just trying to get something over the line, you're just trying to get something through, and you go, you know what, I'll just commit to it. I'll agree, let's just get it over the line. Because you don't want these little things to hold you back. But to the contrary, they can wrench you back further in the future when you least expect them to. And that's what's happened with me in a scenario. So the scenario itself was, this was back in several years ago when I was still kind of property managing my portfolio of HMOs, and had a huge fireworks schedule in play, and it was at the time where we finally needed to bring a contractor in-house. So give him a guaranteed amount of work per week. He'd still do work at weekends and stuff, and he wasn't going to be an employee, but for the best part of the week he would block out time for us. So we just like a contract that we gave him. Now we didn't have enough work on, he'd fill it somewhere else, but we pretty much gave him the guarantee that he'd have X amount of work per week for the foreseeable. Now we came across a guy who was fallen upon hard times, but importantly to us, his workmanship was very good, and he was looking to get himself back on his feet, and he was prepared to give us rates that were significantly better than other contractors we've spoken to. And I'd seen his work, other people had vouched for him, and I thought, right, this is a good guy. We got along, I thought this could be a good relationship moving forward. So we went ahead. The issue was that he didn't have a van. He had all his tools, which is fine, just didn't have a van. Okay, so we thought, okay, we need a van, and he ended up giving us a really, really good deal on the basis that we would help him get a van. Now, he would pay for it out of his wages, because it would be his van, which would allow him to do other work, etc. But he had a poor history of credit. So, me thinking, oh yeah, got a really good opportunity, got good value here. Naivety was like, and he came to me and said, will you be a guarantor so I can get a van? So I thought, oh yeah, okay, no bother. But I did think at the time, this was a little bit, I could be risking myself a little bit here. So I then offered, I said, you know what, yeah, I'll put my limited company up as a guarantor, thinking that, I'll be one step away then. However, I was the only director of that company. And I didn't really read the small print of the guarantor document. I just thought, you know what, limited liability company, I'll put my company up as guarantor. But in the small print, it stated that if the company's guarantor, the director is ultimately guaranteeing it, or guaranteeing it. I can't remember the small print because clearly I didn't read it well enough to fully understand it, because I just thought, yeah, I'm protected. And ultimately, that proved my downfall. And there's another lesson to be learned here, in that read the small print. When you're signing documents, if I think back to the amount of documents I've signed over the years where I haven't fully read the document, it is just suicidal. I could be signing my life away, but you just think, oh, it's boring, it's all legal jargon, I don't understand it. And if you don't understand it, get a legal representative to go through it and bullet point the areas of risk that you have. That's all you really need to understand. Just what is your risk? If you understand your risk, then you can manage that, mitigate it. I clearly didn't do that on this occasion. So, cut long story short, this guy works for several years. Very good. He gets lots of things done. Really good. He has a nice brand new van. He's paying it in fact, when I did this, I remember thinking, I pretty much pay his wages. So I would pay I would hold a proportion of it back to pay his van, which was fine. And all was going well. His van was getting paid off. No drama there. And then the team starts growing. We bring more and more people into the team as the business starts growing. And he has a fallout with one of the admin staff members of the team. And the fallout is so extreme that he quits. Okay, now obviously it didn't just happen, knee-jerk reaction. And we'd already got to the end, and this was a hard decision I had to make, because we'd already got to the end of the fire safety works schedule. The amount of maintenance work was still there, but it just wasn't as urgent as it was with the fire safety stuff. So he'd already got through all that. So we'd quit at a period of time where obviously maintenance is super important, but it wasn't quite as important as getting all the fire safety stuff work. Fire safety stuff is what saves lives. So absolutely needs to get that done straight away. The kind of reactive maintenance stuff is stuff that needs to get done, but you occasionally bring in specialists and those side of things. And so it was something going past somebody. But the reactive maintenance stuff was still needs to be done, but you could bring in specialists when you needed them, and it wasn't necessarily as urgent, like dripping taps and a door that needs fixing, or whatever, just something pretty basic. So it would be a case of I had to make a decision, because it was him or my administrative member of staff that needed to go, because clearly the relationship had broken down so much so it wasn't recoverable. So I looked at the facts, I looked at the scenario, and at the time the administrator in the business was starting to take ownership of running the property management business, and that was a bigger piece that was taking away more work from me than the contractor was doing the maintenance. So I made the decision that the contractor would quit, so he could go. He quit. I didn't sack him, he quit. So I just wouldn't try and bring him back. And he took the hump on this, and there was a bit of a fallout with him, but that was his prerogative. He quit. He just expected me to come running back to him, and I didn't. But lo and behold, he quit. That was the end of it for a while anyway. And when I say a while, years we're talking about here. And I didn't hear anything from him for years. But he took the van with him. It was his van. It's in his name. It's as I was a guarantor. And then, several years later, I get a letter come through the door saying I owe about £4,000 because the contractor had defaulted on his van. It had been taken, it had been repossessed, so I couldn't even get the van back. But the clause in the contract still allowed the finance company to come and claim the outstanding 4,000 some odd pounds on this missed van finance. And I thought, what is this? And then obviously I saw the details. It was Vauxhall Finance and all these side of things, and realised obviously what it was about. So I had to pay that. It's an expensive lesson. Otherwise, and it was quite far down the road when they came after me. So I just had to clear it. That was four and a bit grand to find. Fortunately, I had it, but could have been disastrous. Could have been absolutely disastrous. Might not have had that money, and it may have been bailiffs at the door, repossessing my goods. Could have been horrendous. So you just have to be mindful of things like this. You can come back and bite you in the backside. So, to summarise, the lessons to be learned from this episode is, number one, understand what being a guarantor is. It's not just a shortcut to get some finance through. Okay, that's really, really important. It's absolutely not a shortcut to get some finance through. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, read the small print of any documentation you sign. If it's boring, you don't understand it, that's fine. Just get a legal representative who does understand it to outline in bullet points what's your exposure, what is your risk. If you understand the worst case scenario, then you'll be in a position where you can mitigate those risks and have a contingency plan for if worst case scenario comes. If you can, if you are a guarantor and you need to be a guarantor, take control somehow to ensure the payments are made. So when that was in place, it was fine. I had control of the wages that were being paid to the contractor. See them just turned around and running into the wind now. So hopefully you can still hear me. But take control of the payments. If you can, if you're a guarantor, at least you then know the status of the account, because technically as a guarantor, a lot of finance companies won't keep you informed. The name of the vehicle or the name of the finance is the name of the borrower. And that's not you, you're the guarantor. So that all the correspondence will go through the borrower. And in this instance, this had gone so far down the line that the contractor had clearly missed payments, because they don't just repossess your vehicle after one missed payment. They'll several missed payments. That's months, or possibly a year's worth of being messed about before they'll actually repossess the vehicle. And then, and only then, did they reclaim it and then come to me for the balance. So, because I was so far away from that, I didn't know until it was too late. So make sure you're aware of that. Limited companies don't always provide you with limited liability. It's number 4. So, although in generic form they do, limited company, limited liability as a director. However, if you sign something as a director of that company, that stipulates that you, the director, will take on the exposure if something happens to that company. Then ultimately, you are then a guarantor 2 steps away, because the company's a guarantor, then you're guaranteeing that the company will pay. So you're still a guarantor ultimately. So understand that. And the final lesson is always have a contingency fund for rainy days such as that day. Fortunately, I had the cash available to pay that. But if I hadn't, I would have had bailiffs at the door and it could have got very, very messy. So we're in COVID pandemic now, and there's a lot of people in financial hardship. Now is as good a time as any to start trying to siphon some cash away. You don't know what's around the corner, and you want to have a bit of a rainy day fund. In an ideal world, build it up to 6 months or so of your living costs, Worst, have 1 month. Just give yourself some breathing space. The more you have, the better. It's like self-insurance, where at least you have control. So, that's pretty much it for me today. Hopefully there's some good lessons there on what you can do to avoid situations occurring like what happened with me. So hopefully that's good value to you. As always, if you've got any questions, drop me a line and I will respond to every comment. If it's a bigger topic, I'll do a separate vlog episode, I'll tag you in. If it's not for you, no problem. Just unfriend or follow me. But before you go, please do check out my Facebook Guarantor group or my YouTube channel, Kevin Britt the Entrepreneur. It's so windy. Whereby you can see my 100 or 30 or so episodes so far, catalogued nice and neatly by topic. It's completely free. Hopefully it'll be a useful resource to tap into on an ad hoc basis in the future. And finally, just remember, you can always reach out to me. I'll always try and be available for people. The vlog was set out to help entrepreneurs tackle anxiety, overwhelm and stress using the release mechanism of exercise, and in my case running. So many entrepreneurs struggle with this stuff and bottle it up, and it just creates more and more issues for you and your business. So open up and talk to people, and that's what I'm here for. So please reach out if I can help in any way. That's it for me today. As always, stay positive, stay happy, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Bye.